From the South African boot, East Indian katak, Irish jig, and American Lindy Hop to the Cuban mambo, Dominican bachata, Puerto Rican bomba, Mexican zapateado, Brazilian batuque, and Colombian cumbia. Percussive dance forms the world over have found their interstices within the jubilant beat, a testament to the power of rhythm to energize and synchronize, cutting swiftly, directly, through social divisions, igniting a collective flash of the spirit. Rhythm, whether beaten, shaken, stomped, scraped, is at once primal and mysterious in its complex and subtle variations, generating new ideas, reshaping old ones, holding our histories, telling our life's stories. As John Bubbles, the father of the rhythm tap, said, "Listen to my feet and you know the story of my life." The rhythm dancers I praise today tell the stories of their people through the language of the drum. Whether it's the hard, fast, swinging rhythms of a Jason Samuel Smith or the gitano cadences of a Carmen Amaya, which are full of complex, abrupt syncopations and stabbing staccato phrases, we are speaking in distinct Africanist utterances. I dare say a black modern linguistics, reminiscent of Amiri Baraka's description of black jazz in the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s as vicious, modernism, bang, clash, vicious the way it's made. Can you stand such beauty, so violent and transforming? I'm honored and I'm humbled to be invited to this most auspicious conference as a scholar who has historicized tap dance as an Afro-Irish fusion, a new world drum dance form that initially evolved through the intercultural music and social exchange of Irish indentured servants and enslaved West Africans in the Caribbean in the 1600s. Focusing my research on the islands in the Lesser Antilles of the Caribbean, particularly the distinctive Irish settlement of Montserrat, and also looking at Jamaica. Actually, Montserrat, where the Africans' first European language is believed to have been Gaelic Irish. I theorized and documented how oral traditions and expressive cultures of West Africans and the indentured Irish converged and collided. The flowing 6/8 meter of the Irish jig played on the fiddle was distinguished from the polyrhythm of West African drumming in 4/4 with its propulsive swinging quality. The fusion of these in America produced black fiddlers who ragged or syncopated jig tunes, so that by 1800, jigging became the general term for this new American percussive hybrid, recognized as a black style of dancing in which the body was bent at the waist with movement restricted from the waist down, swinging air steps and rhythmic shuffling of the feet. My attention today investigates Africanist influences in the New World drum dance forms in the Spanish Caribbean. As in my Afro-Irish research, I use the term jigging as an umbrella term for early drum dance forms that evolved tap. I am using the plural Zapateados as a matrix of percussive dance forms, not limited to the striking of the floor with various parts of the hard heel shoe. I'm prioritizing bare feet stomping on the earth. Though I include the codified Spanish dance form that straddles classical and flamenco called Zapateado, I'm placing Zapateados within a larger matrix of drum action verbs that actuate the drum. For as we know, for example, with the passage of the slave laws in the United States in the 1740s, prohibiting the beating of drums for the fear of slave uprisings, there developed creative substitutes for drumming, such as bone clapping, jaw boning, hand clapping, and patting of the body as if it were a large drum, you know, in Juba. So I'm looking at Zapateados as an Afro-Iberian or Afro-Andalusian fusion, acknowledging that Spanish rhythms, while heavily influenced by West Africa and the New World, had melodies full of Moorish, Jewish, and Gypsy elements, which themselves have roots in the Middle Eastern culture. My presentation begins with a working lexicon of drum dance actions. So let me begin there, right? Africa is a verb to me, writes Catherine White, whose collection of African art and artifacts served as the basis of Robert Farris Thompson's 1974 exhibit, An Ethnography, African Art in Motion. And so it was the Africanist verbs of action that drew my attention when identifying styles of stepping in my Afro-Irish research. Thompson's research focused on Africans shipped to the Americas from the areas between modern Senegal and Angola. Some slaves came from Mozambique, a significant number from the Senegambian region, many more from Sierra Leone and the Gold Coast, others from the Bights of Benin and Biafra. One part of Thompson's research referenced the diaries of traders who had visited the region. So from the writing of the Dutch trader Peter Maries, who in 1600 sailed to the Gold Coast, impressed with the richness of bodily adornment and dress of the Akan, he wrote, "They dress quite elegantly, especially women when they go dancing. They embellish their arms with many bracelets of copper, tin, and ivory. To their legs the women attach rings with bells so that when dancing they will resound. There are instruments which are played, one a copper pan struck on the bottom with a wand, drums carved from a hollow log covered with the skin of a goat, cowbells, lutes made of trunk with a circle as a kind of harp. They begin to dance there, pair by pair, leaping and stamping their feet on the earth, snapping their fingers in the air, nodding their heads, harmonizing their play and energetic movement, seizing each other, first one with the other." So it was from these primary source observations and many more that I collected over about 3 years, no, less than that. I collected a span, it was a painstaking lexicon, let me just call it a lexicon, of common descriptors of West African music, sound, and dance, right? So they came really from primary source materials where I just underlined how many times the snapping happened, how many times the stepping happened, how many times. So from that, and let me move here, I comprised sort of, not canons, but just categories of stepping. So I'm going to play this. Okay, we're gonna have fun with this. I'm gonna play this category of Africanist stepping against tap dance, which is now called hitting, of Jason Samuel Smith, right? I've told you already how I theorized tap dance as an Afro-Irish fusion, and that came, late in the 20th century as this now a much more Africanist-inspired form. So I want to read through this West African lexicon against what you're seeing Jason Samuel Smith doing in improvisation. Okay? Can we try that? We'll just do this. This is the kind of way I want to just move around here. Okay? So here we go. Jason Samuel Smith. We're looking at drum dancing. Drum dancing. Okay? So one of the things, categories I found was this thing called body music. Oops. We can't see it? It's coming. I hope. No? No. Okay. Let's take it out. Let's start again. Thank you again. Here we go. No? Yes, we're good. Yes, we're good. We just want to open it up. Okay. So one of the categories, some of these go and some not, was this thing called body music. Embellishments of the arms and legs, copper, tin, ivory, as I said, rings and dancing, that highlighted audible and visual flash. So I'm bringing that to the fact that he's wearing metal taps, right, which are still really actualizing this idea of visual flash. In terms of the category that I wrote from Africanist in terms of rhythmic stepping of the feet, look at the categories I found, and I only included ones in which I found over a dozen references, right? Stomps of the full foot, stamping the ground, right, on the ball of the foot, thuds of the foot, stamping with bare feet, snapping, no, clapping, no, striking, which is called hitting the floor in this style, sliding the foot with the full foot, digging using the heel, slapping, which in tap is called a falap, a brush hop, right? Shuffling, which is a brush step, right? Also, quality steps, steps that are precise, minute, and nimble. dancing many drums, right? Polyrhythms, right? I won't go into the rhythmic movement, but in terms of bodily stance, knees bent, body bent, crooked knees, leaning forward, pronounced diagonality, get down. Dancers' backs are usually bent forward, often exceedingly low, despite the act of jumping, and powerful, constant low, despite the act of jumping, all parts movement. Attitude, serious mien over bodily joyousness, right? An aesthetic of the cool. Okay? There we go. Okay, so let me just go on also. Thompson's primary sources also articulated verbs of stepping, not only stepping, but an Africanist aesthetic documenting the interrelationship of the arts and the cultural and meaning of art in traditional African societies. So basically what he did was, he did this decade-long ethnography where he asked musicians, dancers, artists, what makes a good dance? What makes a good piece of music? What makes a good dancer, right? And some of these came, and I want to come back to him again, if we can, right? With just a few things that I'll just try to underline. Do it? Okay. Here's one quote. Jirna, the traditional warrior's dance, should be danced quickly, light on the feet, with strength and vigorously, as a hen scratches, commented one elder, right? Whatever the dance being done, it should be executed perfectly, completely, clearly, without mistake, in an orderly manner and in detail, right? This is beautiful about some men and all women's dances should be done smoothly, cool, like sleeping on a new mattress, deep, steady, respectfully, as if pressing down the earth, slowly, steadily, controlled, and carefully, soothingly, and persuasively, wrote another musician. Okay? So, these statements circumscribed an aesthetic of black performance that included certain traits that really have existed for centuries. And I name them just here, and I'm going to reference them also as we look at other examples. Vitality, right? This idea of youthfulness, souplesse, flexibility, not in age, but in the fire that comes from the dancing body. An aesthetic of the cool, call and response. Soloist and hand-clapping chorus, call and response. Balance of many kinds. Youthful power, facial serenity. Descent in melodic and choreographic structure. Multiple meter, and a rhythmatized play with pattern in music and art called looking smart. Now, isn't that all in flamenco as well? Okay, so we'll come back to that. All right, so I want to talk about the language of the drum. And I want to use this example. Here we go. I must tell you, I'm so new at this. I feel so humbled to be here. When Maida convinced me to come, or at least I didn't want to come, it's like, okay, I'll try this, but I don't know. I called her so many times. And I do want to tell you that you probably know these references, but I must tell you that I'm responding to what I'm showing you from my background as a tap dancer, okay, as an Africanist scholar. Certainly not as a flamenco specialist. You will have to help me with that, okay? But let me get to this man who I adore. I know I want this. Perchel. Zapateados de Perchel. Okay, so when the earliest European travelers described drum signaling between villages, they assumed that the beating was a kind of code. And in reality, the drums actually speak the language of the tribe. This is called talking drums. So basically, there are two reasons why Africans can talk with their drums. First, African languages are what are called tonal languages. Do we have him? Maybe we can put him. Yeah, paste him, if somebody can do that for me. I would love that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So basically, there are two reasons why Africans can talk with their drums. First, African languages are called tonal languages. The pitch of a spoken word is important in determining its meaning, and the same sound pronounced at different pitches can mean entirely different things. Second, a drum is not an instrument to play rhythms. It plays a melody. Okay. Yeah, I can just log in. And then, oh God, look at all that email. Okay. Yes? Ah! You want to know my life. Second, a drum is not an instrument to play rhythms. We have it. Thank you. Okay. Oh, yes. I just love this.
Sorry.
Okay. So, it plays a melody. By using two drums or by striking a drum in different ways, a drummer can duplicate the speech patterns of his language. So, African music is derived from language. I'm going to lower this and then we can bring it back as well. I just want you to hear it. Just get it lower. Okay. So the phenomenon of the African talking drum is described as percussion that carries linguistic messages by imitating the sound of speech. And it's typically calling on a memorized repertoire of stock phrases that can number in the thousands. Now, I just want to say, we're looking at Perchel, and I'm going to come to him, right? But I just want to talk about various ways of just striking the drum, right? Various ways to strike the drum to make different tonal melodies, right? You can press the drum head with the hand, striking the center with a stick to produce a high pitch, okay? Which is a toe tap, but I won't go on the tap version. You can hit the drum head with the stick, then stop the sound with the fingers. You can slide the stick across the drum head. You can hit the center of the drum with a flat hand. You can hit the edge of the drum head with open fingers, muting the beat by not letting your hands bounce. Just as there are various ways to dance the drum, right? So here we have with Perchel, with this beautiful dancer, stamping the ball of the foot, planta, right? Dropping the heel, tacon, I don't know how to really memorize your thing. Stomping the whole foot, golpe, right? And but all those, sencillos, dobles, remate, pa, 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 tapping the point of the shoe, punta, right? Bouncing the ball of the foot on the floor, shuffling, looking like a shuffle but no glide. Thank you. Okay, so what I'm saying here, right, is what I want to really, analyze at this point. The idea of equating the oral with the oral is based on the core notion that drum dance forms constitute an oral language. It functions, as Mo Meyer so eloquently argued about step dancing, as an oral poetry that shapes acoustic space. An oral poetry that shapes acoustic space as a rhythmic language that expresses acute wit. Intricate combinations of keen, exact steps, keen epigrams directed to the eye, epigrams that proceed from true wit. So, here we are. Here we're really looking at, as a drum dance lexicon that carries meaning. And that's, I think, the most profound observation I can make, all right? That it's just not these stamps, but all of it is a language expressing the soul. Okay, so I'll wait to the end. I can't stop it. Look at his body. I love this. It's so much like Lancashire clogging. I love that he goes from one platform to another. This is 1952. I mean, just extraordinary, right? Just extraordinary. Yeah. I'm going to put this out. Oh, wait. Put him out. I don't know where I'm going next. No, I want that out. Okay, so, of course, over the long term, the Spanish were African descended, like everyone else, right? Since various types of evidence point to the conclusion that all humans alive today trace back to a population that lived entirely in Africa, until perhaps 100,000 years ago, when a population from Africa crossed a land bridge into the adjacent Western Asia landmass, what we commonly call the Middle East. Now, there is no definitive explanation of the origins of early Iberians, but since Iberia, Portugal, and Spain, and North Africa are separated by only 13 kilometers at the narrowest point of the Strait of Gibraltar, it seems plausible that Africans might have arrived in remote times from the south as refugees on wretched rafts do today. If so, coming directly from Africa, they might have been the first Homo sapiens to enter Europe. And this is an observation from Ned Sublet's beautiful book, Cuba and Its Music. So the history of Spanish slavery began in the 1440s with the Portuguese, right? Portuguese slave traders began to operate in Seville during the 1470s. Spanish merchants began to trade large numbers of slaves and subsequently transported to cities all over imperial Spain, thus leading to the spread of Moorish, African, and Christian slavery in Spain. By 16th century, 7.4% of the population in Seville were slaves. Okay, Gypsies too entered Spain early in the 15th century, claiming to be Egyptians, and I'm quoting Mayetta here, penitent for their betrayal of Christ, dark and different. They played on the tensions between Muslims and Christians, dancing across the lines of demarcation. There followed successive waves of gypsy immigrants fleeing persecution, first in India, then in Persia, then in Byzantium, then in Europe, and many of whom stayed and adapted to the peripatetic lifestyle of their father and grandmothers to life in Spain. The extent of black influence on Semitic society is much debated. At the very least, it appears the Phoenicians, and these were Arab, Greek, Hebrew, Lebanese, and Syria, were in direct contact with black Africans from their earliest trading days in North Africa. Plus, the Phoenicians had some black slaves. In short, it seems very likely that one way or another, black peoples were part of the traffic that circulated through Cadiz, off the southern Atlantic coast of the Iberian Peninsula. It was a silver mining center by people who called themselves Canaanites, or the Greek name Phoenicians. Now, I am focusing on the Africanist presence in Cadiz, as it is the geographical epicenter of Afro-Iberian fusions. It's the jumping off point, actually, for Ned Sublet's History of Cuban Music. So Cadiz has been very interesting to me. I'm interested in Cadiz also from what some writers, early writers, wrote about the dancing women in Cadiz. And let me just make a quote, right? A gaditana, right, which is somebody from Cadiz, right, artists, with her troupe of prurient girls. I looked that up, well, I'll tell you later. Singing words more shocking than one would hear from a naked slave standing in a reeking brothel archway. They danced lasciviously by shaking their booties down to the ground. Get down. Literally, ad teram termula descendant lune puelle. You'll have to explain that to me in Spanish. And made a noise of shells, referring to the gaditanas castanets made of shells. And this is really interesting. I'm saying, is it gypsies? Is it, where? I mean, Moors? I mean, is it, where are the influences that he's referencing, right? And I love the booty get down reference as well. Yeah, it's really it's African. It's like, what's going on? Really, I really love it. I'm also interested in Cadiz because it was where the alegrias, which is the flamenco musical form, as you all know now, I don't have to define it because I'm here with all of you experts, right? Consisting of 12 beats that has to originated. Now, I want to just deal with the alegria pattern, but just to say that in the 19th century, the alegrias does become a structurally sort of strict form of flamenco, right? I don't need to all tell you that, right? With each section followed by an entrance, a walk around, similar to an adagio, an upbeat section, and a tap of the foot, right? You all know that. Okay, so good. Here we go. We're going to just clap out a very simple alegrias compás, and you're going to help me with this, okay? We'll learn that first, right? You can't just hear. You should get up. I wanted to have a musical sort of interlude somewhere, but we won't. Okay, so here it is, right? We're going with, we're going to start, we'll start on 1.
On 1.
Oh, no, we'll start on 12.
12, okay.
We'll start on 12, 1, 2, well, we're going, here we go. 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You all have it, right? Oh, good. Ha! Okay. So we have that, right? I was going to say, if you were going to applaud for me after this, if at all, please let's do it in alegrias. In fact, I began to wonder, why aren't people clapping alegrias? And what happened to that, right? It's happiness, right? You're happy. Okay. So here I go. After recording a contemporary arrangement of a traditional African drum rhythm in 6/8, with a 12-pulse alegrías pattern that was played on the cajon. It's a folk instrument that originated in Peru that's become, I guess, a recent addition to the flamenco lexicon. You all know it, I don't.
Yeah.
And palmas. The American percussionist and composer Jerry Leek, do we know him? Do any of you know him? He's really a specialist in Turkish and flamenco and world. He's a musicologist out of Berkeley School of Music. He was struck by how well the two traditions of the flamenco compas for alegrías and the African bell pattern worked together as if born from the same musical mother, is what he said. So basically what he did was, he took the African bell pattern, which I'm going to show you now, right? And then starting instead on 12 with the alegría pattern, starting instead on 3, on the 3 beat, right? He was able to line up all 5 accents of the alegría pattern with the African bell pattern. Now, I'm not saying that alegrías are Africanist derived. I'm just trying to find sister forms here, right? How do we say sister? Hermano forms? And hermano forms here, right? You know, I'm just trying to get, you know, a little bit of the black feel in the alegrías, okay? So let me play for you the bell form, and half of us will take the alegrías and the other half will take the bell form is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We got it, right? Okay, so we do the bell form, and you do the alegrías pattern, right? Starting on 3. So the palmas will be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. Yeah? That starts 3. We start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, we're ready? My side and yours? A 12 count intro, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2. Right? Thank you. Okay, but don't leave. It fits, right? It feels good, doesn't it? It's another alegría, a bell pattern. This sounds good. Although when I did the bell pattern, I didn't feel like the same sort of joyousness that I felt of the alegría. The bell, now I don't know why. It's just the bell pattern just seemed like more like, but that's just how I feel. As you know, as old dancers, does it feel different? I don't know. It doesn't feel like as as the alegría, but that's just me. Okay, so with that Africanist simpatico, let us look at Carmen Amaya's alegrías. Okay, filmed in Cuba in 1939. Looking to this performance, I think to summarize, I just want to summarize orality, the language of the drum, and the Africanist influences in Maya's performances. Okay, so let's just take a look at this. Do we have this again? Can we get this back? And this is out. Okay. And here we have back here. Thank you, Mama. Here we go. Down here. Yes. Leave that go. I'll just do it with my hands. Nina, do you think you can get her in? Yeah, here we go. Okay. So, I'm gonna have my expert Maida comment on these, right? And I just want to say, in this conversation, many of the things that we spoke about is that she spoke about many of these, her alegrías as hemiolized, right? This idea of that. So I'm going to have you speak about these, right? As we can talk about also these other things, this aspect of, I want to go through the canons of fine Africanist forms so that we can really, go back and look First of all, her golpes and all of her footwork are absolutely very incredible. All right, but I want to talk about the fine canons of fine Africanist form. This first idea of ephebism, right? The stronger power that comes from youth, right? There's great vitality coming in her performance. We'll talk about the actual rhythms in a bit, right? This idea of swing, every note and color is strong. This idea of her performance in vital aliveness, playing the body with percussive strength. Flexibility, suppleness, a person dances as if she has no bones. Okay, that's one. Another, the simultaneous suspending and preserving of the beat, which is in jazz, right? This pulling of the beat. This get down quality, because she is bending her knees. You cannot be straight-legged and tap. You can't. You have to have, you know. Also this idea of multiple meter, dancing many drums. She's doing this with her lines. Looking smart, playing the patterns with nature and line. Call and response, the politics of perfection. So I'm going to bring this all to you. Yes, yeah, I just, with the Africanist features that you see in her dance, just small. Just
so, okay. Yeah, I mean, Carmen Amaya, you know, she was the first she was the first Spanish Roma person to really take the international stage. So she really broke the color barrier. And, you know, as Constance and I talked about, she really did that doing making reference to Africanist forms that were native to the United States. And that was one way that she was able to sort of hook in with her audience. And the other thing, I don't know if we talked about this, but she improvised. So she wasn't able to repeat what she did. There was actually a movie that I don't know if I told you this, but the movie called Panama Hattie of 1943.
I saw it, yeah.
Where she wasn't able to do the role because she couldn't record herself after having been filmed. She couldn't do the same thing twice. Yeah. So
she also does breaks.
She does
She's
breaks.
breaking.
Yes, she does breaks.
She's doing call and response with her musicians.
Right.
All right, so many of the elements that I spoke about in this sort of Africanist lexicon are definitely present. And I'm sorry for being so brief, but I've got just a small amount of time. Yes? Fantastic, right? Looking smart. The improvisation is extremely important here. Okay, so let me just go on. So here we go. Let's move on to the Caribbean finally. Okay. Because I have a few more. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. To read more about her, of course, you must read Mayer's work, especially her beautiful essay called Sonidos Negros, right? Okay, so very, very quickly in terms of New World Zapateado, the transatlantic slave trade began in the 15th century, we know, but with the Portuguese. In 1526, the Portuguese completed their first transatlantic slave voyage from Africa to the Americas, and other countries soon followed. So I want to move into that, knowing about that. I'm really moving, actually, in this talk, mostly to Cuba, but I want to start first with Hispaniola, right? The island of Hispaniola in the Greater Antilles, shared by the Spanish-speaking Dominican Republic and the French-speaking Haiti, was the first colony of the New World. It was founded by Christopher Columbus, 1492 and 3, with Santo Domingo having a tripartite cultural heritage, which is native Taino, European, and African. So the first 200 years of history of the colony of Santo Domingo, with its roots mainly in the south and west of Spain, Andalusia, also Sephardic, Jew, and Moorish influences. The next stratum was African, starting as early as 1502, consisting of Christianized and Hispanicized Africans called Ladinos, who had resided in southern Spain for a century. Now, in 1574, a census taken of the Greater Antilles reported 1,000 Spaniards and 12,000 African slaves on the island of Hispaniola. Now, I want to go just quickly through Dominican Republic. The Dominican bachata is one of those drum dance forms having African and Spanish influences. And I won't show you that, although I do have that. And if I put this in the proceedings, I'll give you all the things from it. But I want to talk about what I'm going to show you is what I'm calling African-derived drum dance forms, right? I'm talking about what we're going to see, dances that are performed in front of or with the drums, right? Or with the drums inherent in the footwork, which is the zapateado, right? Or drum dances that were cited for, colonial Caribbean. What all these and other similar dances have in common is that they're social dances. They were used for social purposes of recreation and courtship, right? We know about this. Vacunada, right? This coming in back and forth, right? All are culturally hybrid, yet have fundamental African rhythmic influences. And many or most are urban or became urban as a step in their rise to international popularity. So I won't go on with bachata, but I want to move to Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, we had the bomba, and I must show you this. Bomba. Okay, because I'm really looking at the step phrases that he's using in bomba. Okay, we had bomba. It's an Afro-mestizo drum dance genre that incorporates call and response singing, drumming, and percussive dancing that dates back to the end of the 17th century when the dance was developed along the coast of Puerto Rico. The West African slaves and their descendants used the bomba dances to celebrate baptisms, marriages, and even to plan rebellions, right? Here we go, the talking drums. They danced in pairs, but there's no contact. The dancers each challenge the drums and the musicians with their movements by approaching them and performing a series of fast steps called floretea, decorating with flowers. I love that. Piquetes, pricks, stings, stabs of the feet, creating a rhythmic discourse. Okay? Bomba. Love it. Okay. So, while Puerto Rico is important in the development of Caribbean social dances and dance rhythms because it was one of the earliest sites of Caribbean dance music, Cuba has a profound dance and music legacy, first in the fandangos and the seguidillas in Spain. Nowhere in the Caribbean, or anywhere in the Americas, in fact, and this is Yvonne Daniel saying, were African descendants able to maintain, reconfigure, or transpose as many stylistic roots of African dance and music as in Cuba. Havana's wide port was the colonial hub of trade. Twice each year, the Spanish flotas, consisting of 75 to 100 ships, brought supplies and materials in exchange for cattle products, sugar, tobacco, and coffee. So celebrations on those occasions facilitated the exchange and creations of dances and music. As Cuban ethnologist Fernando Ortiz noted, songs, wild dancing, and music came and went, flowed between Andalusia, the Americas, and Africa. Havana, the center where the rainbow's hottest and most polychromatic hues blended. So, okay, here we go. When looking at Cuban music dance, we need to look at sort of the dance matrix, or what I call the antecedent dances, that of resulting Cuban dance forms. And in Cuba, the cultural segments came from the Americas, southern Spain, the west coast of Africa, and the island of Saint Dominique and Haiti. And I want to just go with at least what came from specifically from Africa, okay? And there were four, very, very quickly. From Africa, the largest cultural segment in Africa came, the deepest penetration of African tradition in Cuba is the Congo tradition, which gave Cuba and the Caribbean such percussive instruments as the marimbula, the cata or the guagua, the conga drum, tumbadores, which are most accustomed to in Latin dances. And the Congo dance, which is a Congo-Angolan Bantu, in which a dancing couple encircles each other and suddenly executes significant gestures. We know this in your dances. In Cuba's Congo dance, yuca, for example, the male and female partners almost never touch, but alternatively advance and retreat. In general, Congo-Angolan dance contains highly percussive, often sensuous movement. The dancers' backs are usually bent forward, often exceedingly low despite the act of jumping and powerful, constant, all parts movement. Okay, the dance tradition in Cuba is the arara. I'll go quickly through that. It originates with the people within the old Dahomey Kingdom of West Africa. Arara dances are, and these are all that came in to make these, what I'm calling Cuban creations now. We're just going with those influences. Those dances emphasize shoulder movement, body orientation low, the dancer bent over or erect, and with shoulders that keep pulsating. The most distinctive African music dance tradition in Cuba is called Carabali, after its region in the origin in Africa. Characteristic movements of those are smooth and sustained lunging stances and alternate with standing positions requiring the performer to be high on the toes, pulled up tight and contained. The last to arrive in massive numbers were the Yorubas. In Cuba, Lukumi became an identifying term for many of the Yoruban dancers. Yoruban dance, recognizably because of its impressive visual symbols, an array of divinities called the Orishas, who enter the body of worshippers in dance. So I'm going to talk from these influences. I'm going to talk about the four main dance complexes that came from these influences in Cuba. And I won't talk about all of them. I'm really going to talk only about two with the time that I have left. But let me name the four for you. One was called El Son, S-O-N. We know that. I'll be talking about that. The second was called La Rumba. The third was called El Danzón. We know that from Contradanza. And the fourth, I love it, we won't be able to see it, it's called El Punto Guajiro Campesino, right? Which is a Cuban country music dance form, dance with polyrhythmic, often contrapuntal footwork, or zapateo, okay? But let me just talk about the son quickly. Son, from sonar, to sound. It's a Cuban genre. It's a synthesis of Bantu percussion, melodic rhythm, and call and response singing, melding with the Spanish peasants' guitar and language. Its balance of the Bantu and Spanish made it the great mother form for Cuban music. The Spanish farm worker sang his decima-derived refrains in a particular rhythm. This is Ivan Daniel. Perhaps he accented his song by beating out the rhythm on the face of the guitar, imitating the zapateo of an absent stamping dancer. Its rhythm took a defined shape that became the son clave. Now, the son clave, as we know, and I'm going to move to some dancing that I want to show you. The son clave, of course, becomes Cuba's most incredible invention of rhythm. I'll go with this in a minute. We know about the clave. It's actually a rhythmic structure meant to keep the instruments which are improvising within the structure itself. It is not a melodic structure. It is a structure that really keeps everything together. And it's done within either 3/2 or 3/2, within a 4/4, and I'll show you 3/2 or 2/3, but we'll just clap out the son clave so we understand this as being the major. Now, if we're looking at alegrías, we're looking at that, right? If we're looking at other rhythmic structures, here in Cuba, we're really looking at the rhythmic structure of the son clave, which is really incredible. So if we have 4 beats, right? And I'll have you clap 1, 2, 3, very lightly. 1, 2, we know this. 3/2 clave is keep it. All right? Okay, we can do it in 2/3 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. You'll help me here. Yes. Thank you for the rumbes in the room. Okay, so the song. We have that, right? Talk just a little about the sticks. The claves are to Cuban music what the castanets are. All right, they were sticks, but they were molded sticks. They were made in the shipyards of Havana. Really, really beautiful sticks. They recalled African instruments, but Fernando Ortiz sees the claves, which are these 2 sticks. There's a male and a female part, right? One longer than the other, so they're sexed instruments, right? Yeah. Fernando sees the claves as the grandchild of the hardwood castanets and the Andalusian ceramic. Is it tejote, the ceramic? Yes? Tejolote, Tejolote. It's a ceramic. It says, yeah? Yes? And cites the genre known as the carcelera, prison song, still part of the Andalusian canto jonde, right, a flamenco. And he says, well, the claves are perfectly suited for articulating a key concept of West African music, also because the two-bar rhythmic cell that underlines the music keeps all the players in a polyrhythmic group together. Okay, so I want us to look at sewn dancing because I just love this. This is in Cuba. It's very contemporary. I want you to look at the feet patterns because the feet patterns to me are really dancing call and response. What the male is doing, the female is answering in certain of the foot patterns. That's really interesting. Also, as I've looked at this many times the feet are working out the clave rhythm. Ba, 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 right? Which is also really interesting, right? And I think I'm just going to end with the Cuban song because we won't be able to go on to rumba. Well, I'll end with rumba, looking at it. But this is Yvonne Daniels. In the portion of the Cuban song, we see remnants of European and African cultures, and there are almost infinite variations. The dance shows its European legacy, with couples touching not only their hands, the woman's waist, man's shoulders. The other European element is the straight back from the court and folk dancing heritages, which opposes the Africanist preferences for bent and low back dancing. They're fantastic. What is African in the dance of sewn is the heavy accent on the moving hips and an isolation of complementary rhythms in various body parts. An emphasis on the hips and their articulation as they follow the rhythmic foot pattern is constant in sewn and consistent throughout Cuba creations. So the emphasis on moving the hips permits the torso to divide its movement potential and to create separate visual rhythms, polyrhythms, between the upper and lower torso. So the divided torso of sewn is African as opposed to European dance of the period, which generally used, right, the entire torso as a stabilizer for arm and leg movements. Okay, and because of time, we'll end here. I want to put this lower here as I end here. Yeah. I want to say that if I were to make this lower here, I can't very much. If I were to continue on another hour or two, right, going on in terms of these drum dance creations, right, I would go from Mexico. I would talk about a group of percussive dance styles in Mexico under the general heading of Zapateado that's characterized by striking the floor, such as the shuffling couple dance called the huapango. From Brazil, I would talk about the secular dance derived from Congo Angolan culture, the batuque, which is highly percussive hand clapping. Yes, right? Yes, yes. Peel me a grape. Yes. Anita Gonzalez says that most South American countries have at least one named African dance characterized by relaxed hip punctuation over zapateo, with a percussive playing of the stringed instrument, guitars, but even the harp, the percussive playing of the harp, as they do in Veracruz, Mexicano. Okay, so I want to end with Yvonne Daniels' quote about drum dance forms. She said, the drum dance forms such as the sewn and the rumba that developed over centuries were considered a museum form by many Cubans who thought that no one danced them anymore. It could not be erased from history, however, she writes, since its creators, many dark-skinned or Afro-Cubans, have never stopped dancing, drumming, singing, commenting on their lives and their socio-political situation. So I'm reminded on this quote of Robert Farris Thompson's last 9th canon, a fine Africanist form. It's called The Ability to Incarnate Destiny. It's just this wonderful a comment on ancestorism, right? This notion that the ancestors, in ways varying with every culture, continue their existence within the dancer's body, right? This idea that, so is it that with rebirth and reincarnation, right, come new styles. And it is from these new drum dance styles that we have the flash of the spirit, that is Mother Africa. Thank you. Alegris! No, Alegris! I don't know if we have time for any comments or questions. We do. Maybe just a few. I'm so sorry. I had to condense 75 pages into 30. Yes.
Thank you so much for this passionate and enticing presentation. With your experience, can you tell us a little bit more about the degrees of more Africanist or less Africanist within tap dancing? So
Within tap dancing.
Within the,
Well, I mean, you can see in tap dancing as an Afro-Irish fusion, you can look at somebody like Fred Astaire or Ray Bolger, right? As different, very, very verticality. Because if you're looking at Irish step dancing, you're looking at everything that's coming from below the knees, right? There were also Gaelic influences in flamenco, which in my research was really interesting. So when I look at Berchel, right, that whole idea of that European stature that came from the court dancers are there, right? But the segment I showed you from Jason Samuel Smith is really, I bring it back, it's really harks back to early turn of the 20th century form of stepping called buck and wing, which was this, now is called through the likes of Savion Glover and this hitting of the full foot, the side and the back foot, right, called hitting, right? So it's really fully. So what I wanted to show in Jason Samuel Smith's style, who's a jazz tap dancer, is really the pronounced Africanist features that, of course, that has really brought in, and which we really call rhythm tap, right? So when I talk about this Afro-Irish fusion, I'm hardly talking about 50-50. It never gets there. It's more complicated than that, right, as Catherine Dunham says, right? So the fusions, depending on where you are and how you are. And also, in terms of Afro-Irish or black and white, we're really not even talking about black dancers versus white dancers, hardly, right? We're talking about rhythmic sensibilities, right? So you'll have a dancer like Eleanor Powell, who is very much influenced by John Bubbles and the rhythm tap tradition, right? You'll look at Bill Robinson, who we know, right? He, in my sense, is a Lancashire English clog dancer because he danced in clogs, right? Didn't he? Wouldn't you say that, right? So it's about rhythmic sensibilities rather than.
in the original soft shoe,
Yes, clog. That comes from the Lancashire clog tradition. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Kind of building off of that, I don't know how the Shen-Nose dance was influenced from African dance?
Yes, in my Shenos is the origin of Irish step dancing, and it's improvised, and it's really, and now it's called the old style, right? Very, very much different from the Irish step competitions. So, and there's a huge Shenos revival, thank goodness. And you can read about, I write a great deal about it. I really love it. In fact, I went to the region to look and to bring back tap dancers who are in that Shenos style, and it's fascinating about the flat-footed style that it really is, unlike really this up on the toes Irish style. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say something which I think I should have said before, which is that one of the big Africanist features that you've been talking a lot about today that we have in flamenco is this call and response. So, the way the guitar accompanies the dance, or the way the dancer accompanies the singing, the way the guitar accompanies the singing, all of that has to do with kind of being in the same system together and responding to each other, all of that.
And it's a really, really deep system that's just not musical, but I mean, you see it in the clave beat, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, right? I mean, it's really inscribed right into the actual form of the dancing, visually and musically, orally.
Okay, that was fantastic. So wonderful.
Oh, that's because you love me.
Yeah, that's true. I do.
You're my friend.
Two points. One, the Umayyad court is importing slaves from East Africa as early as the 9th century, so actually probably the late 8th century to the 9th century, so I'm wondering about that and what that would mean for slaves coming in at that time, and nobody's discussed that so far in terms of this Africanist lexicon on European land. I'd love to hear more about that. The second thing is, I'm not so sure there's this, this German romantic argument that the Gypsies hit Rome in 1422 and they hit Rome in, and that is really, I think, incorrect. They're traveling in and out of Persian and Roman armies throughout, from 200 BCE on. So I'm just wondering how we might think about that differently. I don't know. It's very difficult to trace, but I feel that is an Orientalist,
Yes.
progressive, leading to imperial Spain argument. I'm not sure that
Yeah.
it's helpful in terms of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I just
One of my 3 o'clock in the morning wake up in the bed, anxiety attacks that I had while I was making this was here I am, I'm looking at West African influences, right, as they go into the Caribbean. But when I look at flamenco, we're really looking at North Africa, right? And I hadn't and haven't, because you brought me to this now. Maybe that's what I should be doing now, right? I asked you, where do I go from here? I really think we have to really look more at the North African influences in flamenco. I mean, you have done it, right? Have you? You have scholars who've looked at the North African, right? And not the West African. I mean, I'm coming from my tap sense, but I think you have to look to North Africa. Yeah.
Yo quiero que estoy totalmente de acuerdo y me identifico con su exposición por el lenguaje del cuerpo.
Can you try?
Really agree with your explanation but by your body language.
Oh, yes, it's cool. Well, we're dancers. Thank you.
Porque, ¿qué es lo más importante que transmitimos las personas? ¿El lenguaje hablado?
Because what is the most important thing we
Yes, of course.
communicate
Yes.
the people?
Yes.
The words or
O
Absolutely.
lengua de body?
Yes. Yes. The Boda. The Boda. Thank you.
Pero las investigaciones que se están haciendo sobre África, las personas de África, tú descubres very important for me. Primero, capacidad de comunicar con los tambores.
Absolutely. It's call and response, of course. It's, yes.
Luego,
Yeah.
el tambor no es solo ritmo,
the drum is not only rhythm.
es melody.
Yes, it's melodic, as I said. Right. Thank you.
Second idea. One word, una palabra, diferente melodía, diferentes conceptos.
Yes. Absolutely.
Lo sé por mi amigo de Senegal, de ritmo de Senegal in my music, en Granada, que él dio una conferencia
Yes.
defendiendo cómo su familia se comunicaba. Por favor.
Yes. Yes. Who are you? Who am I speaking to?
You know that from a friend from Granada
Ah.
that communicate that
Yes.
because he was from Senegal
Yes.
and speaks him that his family communicate between them with the drums. The words was in the drums.
Absolutely. But who am I speaking to?
Not speaking.
No, this.
Ya
¿Es Fernando?
Barros.
Fernando Barros.
Okay, thank you.
Me explicaba a mí que decía, wow, gran padre.
Efcaristo Fernando. Okay, I think time's up. Thank you very much. Thank you.